Jim Mann, host of the I Am Healing Strong podcast. So he has gotten a chance to interview lots of people. We are in season 2 now. So this is going to be a time to kind of talk about that. So where would you like to start, Susie?
Well, let me just tell everyone. So this is Giving Tuesday, and we're doing this because we are kicking off our year in giving. And this is not only a day of giving, but it's also a day of getting. We have lots of things that we put together for you if you give any amount, and then extra gifts for those that give a little more. So if you give during this hour, you feel led to give, we hope that you will. We actually will give you, let me pull out some of our books. So we will give all of these ebooks. This is my little book. It's called Created to Heal Strong. It has like 14 different people in it who have used holistic healing. There's all kinds of resources in it. There is what I did to heal. I did the Gerson therapy. I kind of modified it a little bit, but that's in there. We also have our participant guide that's on the page. We've got recipes that are amazing recipes that we'll give you. And then you get entered into win a $500 Nama juicer. And then if you give $50 or more, we were just talking to Jane Barlow just a few minutes ago, and Jane is giving, she actually is sending it out. She is sending out her book to anyone who gives $50 or more. And then if you give $75 or more to any, I don't know what that is, what that noise is. But if you give $75 or more, you get Jane's book and you get Chris Work's Square One. So that's over $200 value. So we are so excited. And the big news is that every dollar will be matched up to $5,000. So please give. That's from the Templeton Wellness Foundation with James Templeton and his crew, Stuart Gittleman, who we get to work with a lot. So we just encourage you to just give. Thank you so much. I think Maya is frozen.
Are we frozen? Oh,
there you go.
I can see myself.
There you go. You're back.
Okay. I see we are on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, I know you can only see the beautiful Jim Mann right now on screen, but Susie and I are here as well. So we will have to play with the formatting so that way we can see all of us at once. But right now,
you know what, Maya, after this, they can go to our website and it will be replayed live on our website. So they just need to log into healingstrong.org and it'll be replayed live too. Yeah.
And I am going to be posting this as well on our Healing Strong wall, and you'll be able to see all of us on screen. But I just wanted to make that announcement. So if you're on Instagram, you're seeing our guest, Jim Mann, here, and you're hearing myself and Susie.
Yeah. Okay. They get to pay extra for that, I think, just seeing me.
Yeah, just a heads up, Jim.
Yeah, I'm giving away my hairbrush because I don't really need it. So yeah. Anybody giving $1.50?
I'll take that, Jim. I'll take that.
It's barely used.
Jim, tell us, okay, I love the podcast, and a lot of the people that we are interviewing today have come from the podcast, but tell everyone, how did you get connected to Healing Strong? Like, how did you land in this awesome organization?
Yeah, it's really, really bizarre. Of course, I found out about Healing Strong, like most people, through Chris Work, as I was doing research on the internet after my diagnosis. And then, so I went to the convention you had back in 2018. Found out you were faith-based. I didn't realize that, which made it a lot better. And so then, I don't know how long past that it was, but I was in Atlanta. I live about 2 hours from Atlanta. And I was there to meet with a friend at a coffee shop, one of my favorite things to do. And I thought, well, hey, I wonder where Healing Strong is. I didn't know whether they had like a skyscraper where you had all your offices there, or whether you had a little TV tray out on the curb. So I gave you a call and said, "Hey, is there any place I can come and actually see or meet people?" Which is not normally me, but I did that. And you were there.
And tell them what it was more like. Was it more like the TV tray or the skyscraper?
It leans a little bit more towards the TV tray, a little bit bigger than that. It was nice. You had a little office with a couple people crammed in there. If someone had to move, the other two had to
A
shift
coat
back.
closet.
It's so true.
In fact, we met in the break room, so we had room to talk. But yeah, we just got talking, and I knew I probably alarmed you a little. You know, some weird guy just wanted to come by, because it's always kind of dangerous these days when some stranger wants to come. And you did a background check. The cops were at the door checking me out.
I did do a quick search. Who is Jim Mann from Greenville, South Carolina? And you had a good voice, Jim. So I'm like, okay, he must be legit, because you came up, your name popped up everywhere. And I'm like, oh, okay, this will be kind of fun to meet Jim.
Yeah, found out I was huge. So we talked, and I was giving you a little bit of my background, how I've been in radio, and now I'm doing podcasts. And then you said, "Hey, we're wanting to do a podcast for Healing Strong," and so you just kind of threw that out there, and you told me, pray about it, see if it's something I want to get involved with. And I'm all for praying about things, but I didn't really need to pray about it, because to me it was like, I was asking God for a way to give back. After being cancer free, you feel like you got to do something. And so I'm like, God delivered it. I didn't have to pray about it. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, I've got some time on my hands after leaving radio, and I wasn't retiring. In case anyone's thinking I'm retiring, I'm not retiring. My schedule is just a little bit more fluid. We'll call it that.
So I want to put a pin right there, like that you decided to do the podcast, but tell us your background, like what brought you into the whole circle of Healing Strong personally?
Well, I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma, which is a gut punch, because I was always super healthy, never sick, skinny as can be, eating all kinds. I ate healthy, but I also supplemented that with unhealthy. A lot of sugar went into me, and I'm sure a lot of processed food. But if you don't gain weight, that means you're healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I did go to the doctors to find out. I thought, oh, okay, maybe, because everyone thought maybe I was like dying on the inside, because I eat everything. But the doctor said, your arteries are squeaky clean. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So I did, and then all of a sudden I got melanoma. So apparently something I was doing was not right. It just didn't show up in their blood tests and all that, and the scans or whatever else they did. So anyway, I was in radio at the time, and I got the diagnosis. It was like an advanced stage of melanoma. I mean, it was 2.5 times bigger than their charts. So they didn't even have examples on the chart of what I had. So apparently I was supposed to be going already. But being in radio, so in Christian radio, and so it was like a perfect example of what Healing Strong is. I just had a very large support group through the listeners, and God knew that's pretty much what I needed, because I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, and so I always just kind of step back and stay out of the way of more important people, and so God, through that, I mean, God could have instantly healed me, of course, and I believe that, but He often, I find out, chooses to let us go through things because there's stuff that we have to learn, and there's a lot of stuff I have to learn, and sometimes I'm a slow learner, so I go through long valleys, but the listening audience.
That's why we love you, Jim, because your long valleys, we just kind of jump in and out of them. No.
I thought it was because I was a slow learner. But so like the listening audience, I expected people to go, oh man, that's a shame. I have an uncle that got cancer and he died I did get a lot of those stories, which is very encouraging. But most of them, I expect to say, "We'll pray for you," and of course, people don't normally do that when they say it. Some of them do, of course, but instead, I had this like tsunami of prayer and love and support from literally thousands of people, which overwhelmed me. And then God did these. Lots of people call it God winks. It's almost too cute to say, but it does describe it. He placed people in my path that was it's the day I got diagnosed, I was at Disney, or got the diagnosis, and I was at a radio conference, and Mark Hall of Casting Crowns, the lead singer, he had just gone through his cancer journey, and I just told God, look, I just got the diagnosis, in case you didn't hear. And Mark Hall is here. If you can just have our paths crossed, that'll be great. And but I didn't think much about it, because I thought, well, that's kind of a dumb request. God's busy. And so that very night, I come out of Contemporary, and there was nobody out there, which is rare at Disney at any time of day, except for one person. Of course, it was Mark Hall sitting on the bench looking at me. And it's almost like God said, "See, I already know about this, and I got you." And and things like that just happened all along the next several weeks into the surgery. Well, the surgery is actually a week later. That's how nervous they were, and they even told me about the second surgery after this one, because they were assuming it was everywhere because of how big it was. And I was getting all these videos from artists. I'm like, man, what is going on? But it was God telling me, hey, you got support, you got love. This is not too big for me to handle. I've been through this before. So he basically changed my life through this journey. I'm now cancer-free. And I realized that God is in the details, and it's all about sharing stories with other people. And the most important thing is hope, which is what these groups give you. So anyway, I rabbit trail a lot, but once I found out about HealingStrong, and then of course the importance of having a group of people around you, being an introvert, I like to kind of not bother anybody and take care of stuff myself. But it's really through hearing other people's stories and they're all different, with some similarities, but everyone's got a different journey, different kinds of cancer, and sometimes it's other disease or other valleys. But when you hear someone else going through something and what they've done to come through that valley, it gives you hope, as opposed to lots of times you go and talk to a doctor who only wants to do chemo or whatever and give you no hope. They basically say, well, we'll extend your life a little bit, but just make it more miserable for you.
Well, I love that about you, because in the podcast, for you all that haven't heard the podcast, please go listen to it, the I Am Healing Strong podcast. A little side note, we're in the top 25% of all podcasts, Jim. Did you know that?
Not 10%?
It's getting close, But numbers are numbers, right? But what's beautiful about your podcast is that you're able to relate to people as they're sharing their stories. It doesn't matter if it's somebody who walked through depression, which you actually interviewed someone that we all love on the radio, Tasha Layton, and you've interviewed Tim Timmons. You brought them in for HealingStrong to hear as well. We appreciate that so much that they did that. But you can relate to them, and you're very open about your own story, and that helps other people be open. And we talk a lot on HealingStrong about sharing your testimony, because it allows others to come out of their own prison, right? When we share our testimony, it gives them encouragement.
Yeah, and I come across a lot of people. Of course, I've talked to a lot of the big dogs in the arena that are doctors or people who have written books, and they have a lot of knowledge, which just overwhelms me. I wish I had a little USB connection here that I can just download. When I talk to somebody, I can just download it onto a stick and come back to it later, because I'm overwhelmed with some of the knowledge that these people have, but most people I talk to, they're nervous about it, and they, and they're like me. They don't think their story matters as much as it does, but everybody's story matters, and that's one thing I've learned through this. Allie's always yelling at me about that.
No, you're always egging Allie on to yell at you. That's what's going on. When you say Maya, he just eggs her on.
I was going to say it is interesting because I've never experienced cancer like you two have. My mom had it, but it's interesting how in life in general, we're so willing to talk about what's going on in our lives and talk about ourselves. But then when the need is really there, we kind of or nobody can relate.
Oh, we're losing you, Maya. You're cutting.
I'm
there. Yes. You are. No, you're right. I mean, when we absolutely walk through the valleys is when people usually stop talking about their needs, right? We're all out there talking about things going good, but when things start going bad, or whether it's us or a family member or whatever, we tend to retreat. But that's when the community of HealingStrong comes together and you can really press into them and make a difference in their lives through encouragement, support, and education, and empower them and equip them. Jim, you lead a group in Greenville, South Carolina, and you get the best advertisement every week because you're doing the HealingStrong podcast, which of course points to our other groups as well. It's not just your group. So we're appreciative. Tell us about your group. Like, tell us a standout moment in your group, and maybe something that, or someone, or talk to us a little bit about your group.
Well, my group is very diverse, and it's like a flow of people that come through on their journey, and we meet at the coolest place ever, of course. If you've ever been to Greenville, all of downtown is amazing, but they have a park. I think it's like 11 acres or something like that. I don't know, but it's called the Cancer Survivor Park, and I thought, well, hey, I was meeting at my father-in-law's church there in Greenville, but I thought, wouldn't that be cool to meet at the Cancer Survivor Park? I mean, it's like a park just made for us. And so I met with, there was a building there, and they said, this is exactly what we want. So they actually gave me a key to the place. So it's perfect. And then we're
call them and tell them any different, but no, I think that's so great.
So what does a key to the place mean? Is this like a gated park?
No, the building, is a code to get in the building and to turn the alarm off, stuff like that. So for some reason they trust me, and I'm not gonna tell them any different. I don't touch anything except for the TV.
Glasses. You look very kind.
Yes,
he is very kind. He is. And it's a beautiful building. It overlooks this beautiful park that was made for cancer survivors. And the story behind it, we actually met with one of the big people. I don't know if he was a designer. I know he was involved in the process. He lost his daughter. And anyway, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, now it's dark when we meet, and it's all glass, which goes again. There's a trail. The Swamp Rabbit Trail goes along there. Of course, there's people constantly going. They're all looking in, want to know what it is. They see the curriculum up on the big TV, and so they're getting it's good advertisement for us. But we had like one guy. He's the young. It's usually all women. What is that about? Guys don't like to talk about stuff, I guess. But we did have a guy. He came home from China. I think he was teaching English there, and he came home because he got diagnosed with cancer, exactly like Chris Wark, in fact. And of course, he had his book, and he's doing everything Chris Wark did, and including turning orange from eating so much carrot. And I got to witness that. But I think he's like in his 30s at the most. But obviously he was scared, and the doctors only wanted him to do chemo and said nothing else matters. And so he got them mad at him because he he refused to do that. He wanted to do what Chris did, and it's paying off. All of his numbers are going down or up, whatever direction they're supposed to be, depending on what it is. And he said that, and he hasn't been able to come lately because he started a job that's on West Coast time, so he's doing it from home and it's during our meetings. But he said the best part of coming was just hearing everybody's stories, which, goes back to that. He goes, just encouraging to hear people. And some of them still have cancer. Some have overcome their cancer, and some never even had cancer. They just want to not have cancer. So that really spoke a lot. And of course, being in radio, they tell you that everything's about the story. So that's already been embedded in my mind. And that's the same thing in marketing, whatever business you're in. It's always about story. People respond to stories. And I was reading a book, in fact, yesterday, and it talked about telling stories. And they said there's 4 parts to a story, and if you have just one of them, people listen. But if you have more than one, then it's very successful. And we hit all 4 of them. That was kind of exciting. The 4 characteristics are identifiable characters, which, if you're going through cancer, we're all talking about our journey and the doctors that we're seeing or whatever the case is. So we all understand that. Authentic emotion. If you have cancer, you understand the emotion of the diagnosis and the journey. A significant moment, which of course is when the hope steps in. And then specific details, which is pretty much what we give, with different protocols or just giving you the education, the knowledge you need. And so, we hit all 4 of those, which means the stories that we tell are very powerful. And it says so in the book. So
what's the name of the book, Jim?
That's I think I told you about that. Choose your story, change your life.
Yes, you did. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not a faith-based book, but the principles are exactly like the Bible. I mean, what you put in your mind, what your mind is telling yourself, the Bible tells you to renew your mind by reading the Word, getting into the Word. And they don't say it that way, but it's the same exact principle. So they talk about renewing your mind with a different story to overcome those negative thoughts that we all have about ourselves.
It's so true, isn't it? Like we talked about this with Sherry Calbone, who her story because you interviewed her on your podcast, on the I'm Healing Strong podcast. But she has great trauma, was attacked in her sleep by some teenagers with a pipe. But she can tell her story now and she can look back on it. She's left some of it out. I've heard her tell it before, but she can look back and see Jesus standing there with her. And, I know for me, there have been times of suffering or trauma in my own life. And when we get to the point that we can look back on those stories or back on the trauma and see the good in it, that's when healing takes place. If we continue to look back on an abusive father, look back on, a mother who abandoned you, look back on a husband who divorced you, or, look back on even Maya, you lost your mom. I lost my mom too. Look back on those times, which are sad, right? They're really sad. And, but when we can look back and go, wow, look, God, look what you've done in them. And that's what the Healing Strong community does. It helps us to see the good in our lives, and we don't focus on the pain and the suffering. We help you reframe that and focus on the goodness of God and the light right in front of you for today, not behind you. There's no light behind you, but there's light right in front of you.
That's where your shadow is.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. We don't look at the shadow. We look at the light right in front of us. Well, Jim, why would you tell someone, now you've done these things before, so I want you to put on your radio hat, your telephone hat, and I want you to tell the audience, why should they give to Healing Strong for Giving Tuesday? Why should people be a part of it?
And go.
Okay, well, it is a very powerful tool that, and I don't know anything about the business end, I don't get into the finance and stuff like that, but I do know that it takes money to run any organization, nonprofit or for profit. Of course, this is a nonprofit, and it's not about the money. Susie is definitely not someone who started this so she can get rich. Right. Okay.
True.
But yeah, I mean, but it does take money to run things. And so these stories, like I say, I mean, I forget what the number is, but thousands and thousands of people have listened to these stories, and we'll never know how many people are touched by this. And again, it's like radio. You know, we're in a room talking to big sponges. You know, it's just like two of us or three of us, but it's hard to fathom that we have thousands of people that are listening, and different words we say, and we have no control over that. I mean, we try to say smart things, but I mean, God takes the things we say, and it's usually the dumb things I said in radio, and people remember that. I mean, dumb as in I didn't really think about what I was saying, but people will, like, months later, come to me and say, "Hey, remember when you said that? You know, that really spoke to me," or, you know, that just brightened my day, or stuff like that. So God takes the simple things that we do, and he uses things because he's pretty sophisticated. He knows how to do the hard part. We just do the simple part. And that's exactly what the podcast does, the support groups do, is just getting together. It's pretty much how God designed us to, I mean, he can do it all himself, but he likes using us, and he wants to use us to bless other people. And when we just get involved, and not being, it's okay if you're an introvert, but don't sit back because you're an introvert like I would tend to do. Just get in there and tell your story, and love on people, pray for them, and and you give back more than you give. So it's an organization that has eternal benefit, eternal value. You know, as we all know, investing in the stock market is kind of scary these days. In fact, I took $200 the other month, and I've turned it into 80 some dollars. So
That takes talent.
I might start a business and help people invest. But my point is, when you invest in something like that, like this, it does have eternal value, and God takes that and multiplies it way beyond what we can do. I myself, I didn't realize it, but I not only do the podcast, I also give financially every month, and I'm also a group leader. I thought, man, I didn't realize I was that involved.
Yeah, you are knit into the fabric of HealingStrong. And you touched on something really, really important. As I was getting ready today, I was just praying about today. And my favorite Christmas show is It's a Wonderful Life. And what I love about George Bailey, and I feel like that represents his heart, represents my heart for HealingStrong and our team's heart. We don't care for the big people to come in and run what we do and tell us what we need to teach. And we keep things super affordable. Our groups are always cheap. Our conferences are always very affordable. Our webinars, I mean, you name it, we work with people to help our group leaders go to training at cost or at no cost. And so we're kind of, Chris Work said to me last week, he said, y'all are kind of the scrappy bunch. And for just a moment, I had just a tinge of, why are you saying we're scrappy, right? But I love it because it's like the Bad News Bears, if you grew up with that, or It's a Wonderful Life when George Bailey was in despair. And who came along? It was his community that came along and gave everything that he needed because he had given everything that he had. And that is HealingStrong. We are community together. And I like it that way. I like being called the scrappy bunch that we work on a very minuscule budget. We have way more volunteers than we do just a handful of people that work in the home office. Our office is super tiny. There's 3 or 4 of us in the office at the same time. We all work in one group. So we do a lot with a little. And that's, I know for me, that's where I would want my money to go. And I'm asking you to please consider giving to HealingStrong. I love it, Luana. Luana is our chaplain for our group leaders. And she volunteers her time too. And she said, the return you get on an investment with HealingStrong is immeasurable. Lives are being changed for eternity. Thank you so much, Luana. That is so true. So to all of you that commented and have given, and Betty has seen the tiny office. Yes, it's super tiny. Thank you, Betty. And Betty, we're going to talk about you and what you and Barbara are doing at the 3:00 hour. So I want to invite everyone to come to that. But thank y'all so much. Jim, I can't wait to see you Thursday. We'll talk more about that. That's our big announcement later on today. At 7:00, we have a huge announcement to make. But
Come back, Jim.
Jim will be in on that, right? Jim, can you join us at 7 today?
I'll see what I'm doing.
All right. Well, I'm excited about today, and thank y'all so much for being a part of it. Maya, you rock. You rock. Thank you for setting all this up. So,
like you said, we're all in this together. So
we are. I'm telling you, we are. And I would rather be all in this together than to have a great big punch of, people and everything else, money to pay for different. No, we are volunteers doing a lot, and we should be very proud of it. So I'm very proud of all of you and appreciate you so much. Healing Strong would not run if it were not for the people sitting in front of me and those of you on, and so many on our team. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You guys give. It kicks off our year-end giving, and every single dollar will be matched, and you just might get a gift. So go on our website to give today. So thank y'all so much.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.
Giveaway.
30 minutes. Bailey O'Brien is next, right, Maya? Is it Bailey?
Yes.
I think it's Bailey next.
She is a core thriver as well.
Yeah. She's awesome. Part of our community and just a dear friend. So, yeah. You guys share this, share the video, get it out there. Help people know we're doing this. We'll talk to you soon. Thank y'all.